트럼프 대통령이 예고한 상호관세 유예 시한이 다가오고 있습니다. 과연 글로벌 관세 전쟁이 격화할지 시장이 숨죽이고 있는데요. 오늘 미다스의 손'에서는 스위스에서 시작돼 100년이 된 글로벌 금융그룹 본토벨금융의 본토벨자산운용 크리스텔 랑두드린트 대표를 만나 글로벌 자금의 흐름과 앞으로의 투자 전망을 들어보겠습니다. Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Good morning, Trisha. Thanks for having me.
글로벌 금융시장의 불확실성을 좀 키울 수 있는 변수는 무엇이라 보시나요?
Yeah, I think the most salient feature in the investment markets at the moment going forward is really this volatility that we have, and that is something that is very much structural. And I think this is the key message to keep in mind, is that this volatility is here to stay. It's been triggered, it's a continuation to an extent. I think the end of the quantitative easing that we saw in 2022 was a factor towards that. The flaring geopolitical tension is another one. And of course the US administration, in a sense, has been an additional factor of volatility with the back and forth on the tariffs in particular. And that leads me to saying diversification will be the key word that investors will have to keep in mind going forward.
관세 전쟁이 격화될 것이라 보시는지, 또 이에 따른 시장 여파는 어떻게 보시는지 궁금합니다.
I think the ink is not dry, clearly, so let's wait for July 9th. And it looks pretty unlikely. Many countries have already negotiated deals, so it's quite unlikely that it will come out without any mitigating measures.
Okay.
But yes, of course, the market gave us a preview, in any case, of what would happen if there were no mitigating measures with respect to what was announced back in April. So yes, that would tell you that growth would slow, inflation would go up.
미국 달러인덱스는 50년 만에 최대 하락폭을 나타내고 있고, 세계에서 대표적인 안전자산으로 꼽혔던 미 국채도 수요가 약해지고 있습니다. 앞으로의 전망은 어떻게 보십니까?
Well, I think there's been indeed a structural shift on the dollar, and clearly the US administration is actually favorable towards a weaker dollar. But beyond that, the more adversarial stance that the US administration has taken towards some of its partners, as well as some of the questioning around the US institution, and in particular the question mark around the independence of the Fed, although it's been, in a sense, denied or said, no, this is not about the independence of the Fed. But I think all of that indeed is putting pressure on the dollar. And we're very clearly seeing around the world, as we speak to asset allocators, that there are questions around the dollar. And that in itself is meaningful. So while the US has a lot going for itself, while it is extremely difficult to diversify away from the largest markets in the world, I think we need to think that the marginal buyer, the marginal asset allocation trade, is likely to go away from the dollar going forward, or definitely more away, or look at other places in comparison to before.
불확실성이 높은 지금 같은 상황에서 투자자들이 찾을 수 있는 기회는 어디에 있다고 보시나요?
Diversification can be expressed in many different ways. It can be a geographical diversification, and for quite many years now, for instance, both Europe but also in particular emerging markets have been fully neglected in a sense. Europe has had quite interesting developments since the beginning of the year, obviously. They, with the push of the US administration, I think there's been a pulling together of Europe. We've seen the decision to increase spending on defense in particular. So of course that would be beneficial to growth, at least over the foreseeable future. It needs to see if it translates in long-term higher growth. But that is clearly something to take notice on. And really emerging market, as a geography to invest in has been completely frowned upon for now since pretty much 2021, and I definitely think there are opportunities out there, and in particular, let's say if you want to start with the lower end of the risk spectrum, when you look at emerging market debt, sovereign hard currencies, so in dollars, these are investments that offer attractive opportunities. Because the trend that we've seen for a very long time, in particular during the whole quantitative easing period, are unlikely to return. So we're going to have to be more nimble in managing.
본토벨에서 현재 한국에서 찾고 계시는 투자 기회라든지 제공하실 만한 상품은 어떤 게 있는지 궁금합니다.
So I mean, in Korea, you have one of the most sophisticated asset allocators. The diversification opportunities in the fixed income space are particularly attractive, whether in a total return approach versus a traditional global aggregate benchmark, which is a broad fixed income benchmark, or whether you look at it more from an absolute return perspective, saying what opportunities are they in the fixed income universe globally, and how do I allocate my risk, and you approach it this way from a sort of bottom-up portfolio construction. Yeah, so Vontobel is a company that's been around over 100 years, and we really are focused on active investment management. So this is our DNA. So it might be a fund, and that's a commingled vehicle, but we also do a lot of customized solutions with our partners, because we do believe that you need that edge. You really do, and the markets are not getting easier, but at the same time they also offer these opportunities if you have the edge.
Thanks for the interview today.
My pleasure. Thanks, Trisha.